Time is 7:04. The 8th meeting of council is now called to order. Um, Beginning with the land acknowledgement. Western University is situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron peoples, who have long-standing relationships to the land and region of southwestern Ontario and the City of London. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing Indigenous urban population. Western values the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original people of Turtle Island, North America. Ethan, would you like to lead us?
Yes. All right, everybody get up.
I don't know the words. Oh yeah, social science sits. Oh yeah. Okay, Peter, go. No, you want to hurry up.
Peter, you wanted to do this up to your right? I don't know the dance, actually. Well, you'll do it next
Peter, get up there. Because we're not in the song. It's art.
Oh!
You're not in the song.
All right. Okay. I don't know the dance. We're doing it side by side. I don't know the dance. Follow my movements, okay? Right. Everybody ready? Why'd everyone sit?
Okay.
Thank you. Up next we have roll call, so please head over to Turning Point and Okay, we'll now move on to the approval of the agenda. What we have on the agenda as it stands, We have no presentations, and Pensy is not here for the Board of Directors report. We have an election of a counselor to Purple Care trustee hiring panel. We will approve exec reports. We have the EA student financial aid policy paper approval, and from GNF we have the motion regarding working group policy amendment, the motion regarding amending council composition procedure, and the motion regarding repealing standing resolution of council and amending standing orders of council and fees and financial statement policy. From UA, we have motion to prioritize advocacy to include kosher and halal food options within residence and on-campus eateries, and the motion regarding Senate chair reports at USC meetings. That will, again, this is a one-part meeting, so all of the voting and all of that will happen for that today. Are there any amendments to be made at this time? Yes, Councilor Adamesco.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment, please.
Yes, can I grab a seconder? Councilor Kermack, go ahead.
Whereas the pandemic exacerbated the use of single-use products in order to prevent transmission, whereas Western has not made significant progress in reducing plastic waste on campus post-pandemic, whereas Huron University College and Brushy University College have both committed to being blue communities, be it resolved that Council approves the President and VPUA's blue community proposal for Western.
Okay, and then are there any questions on adding this to the agenda? Are there any points of objections or debate? If there are none, are there any objections to adding this to the agenda? Okay, this motion will be added as the last motion. Are there any further amendments to be made at this time? Okay, if there are none and there are no questions, please head over to Turning Point to vote. Okay, the approval of the agenda passes unanimously, and we're now going to move on to the approval of last meeting's minutes. Can I get a mover? President Gardner, and can I get a seconder? Councillor Oslis. Are there any questions? Are there any points of debate? Please head over to Turning Point. Okay, the minutes are also approved unanimously, and we'll now move on to our first motion, which is the election of counselor to Purple Care trustee hiring panel. President Gardner is mover, and can I get a seconder? Councillor Cohen. President Gardner, you have the floor.
Maybe I'll give my time to Councillor Uslis to talk about her experience on Purple Care this year.
Yeah, rude, whatever. Just kidding. Okay, thank you. I have had a fantastic time. I think it's a really great opportunity for students to help with hiring Purple Care trustees, which is really important for the longevity of not only the USC, but especially our healthcare plan. I actually would love to nominate someone. Am I allowed to do that right now? No? Okay, then go ahead.
Are there any questions? Okay, now you can.
I would like to nominate Counselor Nomorowski.
Okay. Are there any? Okay, good. If there are no further, unless Counselor Noborowski would like the floor to speak at this time, go ahead.
So, yeah, I actually think I'd do a great job on this. Like, I know we have to deal with like a lot of people that with insurance and finance, so given my background, I think I'd make pretty good for like hiring students that would come too in relation with like other adults. And yeah, I think that Purple Care is very useful. Yeah.
Okay. So please head over to Turning Point, and this will be a vote of confidence for Councillor Nomorowski. Okay, this passes unanimously. Congratulations. We now have the exec reports. President Gardner is mover. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Kitamisi, and here is the presentation.
Perfect. So completed, brought the budget to council and board of directors, both of which went successfully. Board of governors is next. Killy concert, successful. And then ongoing is transition, exec hiring for next year, and finalizing the space review. Then upcoming is budgets, board of governors, as I said, transition again, and purple finale. I said working name, but I think that's what we're going with. And then top three. One is Sunday, the person. Number two is USA, and number three are all of you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hi. So for completed, the Blue Community Proposal, which Alina amended the agenda to include, thank you all for voting for that. So I'm looking for council approval so I can begin working on this with Western administration, specifically housing and the operations and finance departments. Student financial aid policy paper as well, looking for council approval. This was a collaboration between my portfolio and my AVP Madison, as well as Jessica and her AVP Sarah Emily. I did a presentation at the University Research Board to discuss undergraduate research opportunities and ways that the school can continue to engage undergraduates and create more financial opportunities for research grants, which was really, really actually a fun presentation. My portfolio hosted USC Day in collaboration with Kimia's portfolio for International Women's Day, as well the International Women's Day dinner with our provost, Florentine Strelchek, and shout out to Cam, Kimia, and Jess who attended that with me as well. It was really fun. Ongoing, the teaching, learning, and assessment policy paper, as well as our students with disability policy paper. Hoping to bring both of those to you for approval in April. Working on a mental health brief for administration in collaboration with a couple counselors, which is really exciting, as well as experiential learning opportunities. I've been working closely as they've been kind of developing a bit of a strategic plan with better collaboration between faculties. Upcoming, transition with incoming VPUA, Maria, and the pie head dinner with Jess and Ethan Gardner, as well as some Western administration. My top three, I turned 23, which is really cool. International Women's Day and election of our new VPUA, Maria Farouk.
No worries. Jess is here on Zoom, but I will speak for her. So completed is SFA paper, USA Spring General Assembly. I don't know why I'm reading those out. They're on the screen, and they're top three. Last USA GA, I think should be okay. Top three are the last USA EA, TNA paper passed, and then SFA paper completed. She's currently,
Hi guys,
there
can
she
you
is.
hear me? I actually have no idea what's happening because I don't see what's happening at all. So I'm gonna try my best. Okay, I don't remember what I put my top three as because I don't have the slide open. But I think I put Women in House maybe. But if it's not, then it's still my three. Oh, it's USA GA. Guys, I don't know why. TNA paper and the SFA paper. So true, all these papers. I don't know why I zoomed in. I just felt FOMO for not being at the last council meeting, but here I am, kind of. Okay, so I'll go straight to my completed. So as you can all see on the agenda, the SFA paper is done. The entire paper is complete. You've seen the PCRs many a times, and now you're seeing the body text, and hopefully it'll pass today. Shout out Lauren, Madison, and my AVP Sarah Emily for working on this paper. Another thing we completed was USC Spring General Assembly. Our delegation was awesome, and we passed the teaching assessment paper, which was in my top 3, apparently. And the 2S LGBTQ paper is going to be finished with reviewing, and it's up for the remainder of our plenary. We didn't finish plenary when GA happened, and we're finishing it up this Sunday online. So hopefully that paper will pass. And then moving to the third item with the Women in House Conference, it was a great success, super proud, and it came out to be 25 delegates with 18 MPPs engaged in different shadow blocks, 4 different professional development sessions, and 1 reception. The next item is the USA Teaching Excellence Awards. So every year, USA recognizes professors for their teaching excellence based on nominations from each school. So we nominated Dr. John Paul Minda from the Department of Psychology for the award based on your faculty council submissions and by revision and selection by the USC's Recognition and Awards Committee. The next item is the Safe Cities Advisory Committee meeting. So they did a big strategic planning meeting for the year 2023. Most of the discussion during that meeting ended up being about the Map My Experience tool, and it kind of devolved away from the strategic planning itself. So hopefully there's some more progress there in the future meetings. We also attended the City of London Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee meeting earlier in March. It was their public participation meeting for the strategic plan. So myself and 2 of my AVPs went as a delegation, and we spoke primarily on pedestrian safety, safe city, and housing. So next item, USA Housing Campaign. If you've seen on my Instagram, maybe USA's Instagram, whatever it is, this is ahead of the Ontario 2023 budget being released tomorrow. We did a campaign calling the Ontario government to fix their OSAP clawbacks a little bit more, especially from taking into consideration the rising costs of housing and generally just taking an affordability lens. The next item is our Municipal Advocacy Week, or rebrand to Local Advocacy Week, is happening next week. So delegates were selected and trained last week, and really happy and excited. We have lots of counselors on board next week, some meetings with city staff as well. So that is that. If we can move to the ongoing section. I'm the Zoom voice because I'm away on the CASA conference. It's our first conference as an observer member. It is a little daunting being an observer, I won't lie. But what's really exciting is we were officially approved by CASA membership as of today to be an observer. So that's exciting. And then for my upcoming items, the USA budget for the next fiscal year is is up for approval and review tomorrow. So that'll set the course for that organization next year. There's a UCRE AGM coming up in the month of April, so hopefully I can provide some updates at our final April council meeting. As I mentioned earlier, Local Advocacy Week is happening next week, and we've got our USC's Partners in Higher Education dinner, which is a celebration of all of our sector stakeholders, including Western Administration, our professor who's winning the Teaching Excellence Award, and politicians. So it'll be a way to end off the year, celebrate with the sector, and get some updates hopefully when we come back. Finally, as you can all probably guess, the last upcoming item for me is transitioning my successor, Emily, who is freshly elected by you all. So really excited to begin that transition. Sad to see everybody for probably one of the last times, but thanks guys. Can't see any of your reactions or hear you guys tune out, but love you guys very much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Hey everybody. Completed Killy concert, Y2K dance party. We had Pride Ball in the Wave, which was really nice. Execs did Hot One in the atrium, and shout out Bizram for eating way too many hot wings. He slayed that. We had our faculty heads off and dean reception today, which was a really great way to get our faculty deans involved with OE way before the summer, so that was really cool. Some wellness programming that happened in the atrium, just some pop-up programming. We also had sustainability with Enviro, Charity, and PAC, which was in Mustang Lounge. Some ongoing is another sustainability project that I'm working on with Jess and the City of London, just trying to reduce our waste at the end of the year. Upcoming Theater USC, which is exactly what you're hearing in Mustang right now, so shout out. You can check out their Instagram if you want to buy tickets. They're doing their musical. We have our One Direction dance party, which is tomorrow night and is almost sold out, so if you want to get your tickets, you better get them fast. We have Soft Pub on the 24th, the Prosper Conference on the 28th, and Purple Finale in April, which is 2 friends, super, super exciting. And top 3 this month, Y2K, because we had a bunch of film cameras there. So fun. The reception we had today, like I was saying, just something that I've been working on with some administration with Western. The whole soft journey and hiring started in October, so the fact that we have everybody hired now is super exciting. And always girl bossing, just slaying the day away. And that's it from me. Thanks, guys.
All right. So, I guess I'll start with my top 3. So top 3 this month, sing the Western song. I did not just add that. That's always been there. Tax season. So I don't know if that's everyone's favorite thing, but it's a fun thing to do, no? And Lauren's birthday, of course, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. With everything that's been going on, budget's been done. Garner already talked about that. Student Refugee Fund Review, it's still going on. Had some more meetings with Western International about these things. Been a little bit of pushback there, but yeah, hoping to get that sorted. Income tax clinic, that's been running. We're in our last week of it. All of our junior analysts and senior analysts have been doing lots of good work with the volunteers putting in a lot of hours. Some of them haven't been showing up, but oh well. We've been making all of our appointments and even doing a couple walk-ins for people who really need their stuff done. Financial Literacy Week 2 also ran, was finished up last week, so I kind of estimated the timing of that a bit wrong. Council Transition Drive, with everything cooling down a little bit at the end of the year, I'm getting back into some transition stuff for you guys and your replacements. And then other than that, some other transition stuff of writing file briefs, doing a bit of election policy review in tandem with EGC, just them having noticed issues with our election system this past, election period, and wanting to just amend some issues and hopefully make things better for next year. And then, yeah, the rest of everything is transition. And considering we're at the end of the year, if anyone thinks I've been doing a good job, tooties are appreciated. All right, thanks.
Hi, everybody. Okay, top 3 this month were International Women's Day pop-up in the atrium. It was really fun to get to do like in-person stuff when usually I am the one behind the computer all the time, so really fun. The job fair was also really great. Again, another day, not behind the computer, but getting to talk to students about working for the USC and becoming a coordinator, an AVP, or an intern, and getting involved in that way. That's how I got involved, so that's pretty cool. And working here. I feel really grateful to get to be here for another few weeks until they drag me out kicking and screaming. So that's always a highlight. Completed, we did a Black History Month, We Get a Glance campaign, really simple, effective, nice and straight to the point. Coordinator profile videos as part of our recruitment campaign launched on YouTube yesterday, so we're bringing back YouTube as another channel. International Women's Day, like I said. Women in House, thanks Jess for taking us, and for all the girlies that came. We had a really good time, and really nice to be part of like something that was happening in the moment and actually like giving students that power to feel like they can change the world. We did a local media pitch for Sunday. There were no takers, but we did it. Gazette, if you want to write a story about Sunday again, I have a pitch prepared. And for St. Patrick's Day, we did a harm reduction campaign, which we put out a video that was really cute and not at all embarrassing, just making sure that people stayed safe and had alternative programming options if they chose to celebrate last Friday. Ongoing, our USC census is up and live. In the past, it's been called the General Student Survey, and we rebranded to kind of have more of a like, every student should and can fill this out. So that's open till April 13th, and we'll see more communications going out for it as we get closer to that deadline. Recruitment is almost done. We're like a week away from all the deadlines, so last push, get your friends to apply for jobs and all kinds of stuff. And we've got lots of really cool opportunities that people that you know I'm sure would be great at. And our Voices print publication is moving to a fully digital format for both the trees and also time. But that will be really exciting to see coming up soon. And if you've written something, thank you. Very excited to have you as part of the collection. Ongoing also is our new Sunday series, which my AVP Tamsin, who's over there, kind of came up with this idea and has been executing it. So a good way to introduce Sunday to the student community and keep up that student engagement that we got with his election and our highest voter turnout in a long time. Always Ongoing is always the same. And upcoming, we have Relay for Life, which is happening April 1st, and I'm helping that team with getting the word out and their comms together. Purple Finale, April 5th. Please come. Bring 2 of your friends. And thank you. Bring 2 of your friends. Also, the artist is 2 friends. Bring 2 of your friends. There we go. I don't pay Tamsin to laugh at my jokes. She does it anyway, and the payment is separate. And Transition, which is bittersweet, but also very, very exciting for the incoming person, which we will know really soon. And that's all. Thanks, folks.
Okay, are there any questions? Are there any points of debate or amendments? If not, please head over to Turning Point to vote. Okay, this motion passes unanimously. Up next, we have the student financial aid policy paper approval. President Gardner is the mover. Do we have a seconder? Counselor Cohen, President Gardner, you have the floor. Okay, are there any questions? Are there any points of debate or amendments? Yeah. Yeah.
So motion to amend, add a recommendation under Western Student Financial Aid, Equity and Accessibility section of the paper. Reason for amendment, inconsistency with principles, concerns, recommendations in this section. The recommendation, aligning with Western's strategic plan to invest in equity-deserving groups, Western should prioritize financial aid initiatives that garner intersectionality. Added body text end of equity accessibility body text section. By enacting the suggested initiatives for racialized, two-spirit, and LGBTQ plus students, Western should prioritize further financial aid initiatives that focus on intersectionality, notably regarding disabled students, religious minority students, and other visible minority groups on campus. In doing so, Western University can foster an inclusive environment on campus, encouraged in part through equitable and accessible financial aid. We'll send that to you, Melissa.
Yeah, I was gonna. Can I get a seconder for the amendment? Counselor Adamesco? Okay, are there any questions on the amendment? Do we all want to wait till it comes up on the agenda, or do we understand? Cool. Are there any points of debate or amendment to the amendment? Okay, if there are none, we will vote on the amendment. Those in favor of adding the amendment to the motion, please raise your placard. Lower. Those opposed? And those abstaining? Okay. That doesn't equal 30. Okay. Please vote on all voting matters. With that, the motion is now amended. We're working to get that into the agenda if you want to look at the amended version there. But now returning to the initial debate period of the motion 3. Are there any further amendments or points of debate at this time? Okay, if there are none, please head over to Turning Point to vote. This motion also passes unanimously. Okay. Now we are on the working group policy amendment. Councillor Mashwari is our mover, and is there a seconder? Councillor Cohen. Are there questions? Oh. Is Siddharth not here? Okay, then I think we actually need a mover. Tiffany, would you like to speak on this motion at all? Oh. Go ahead.
It's fairly simple. Okay. Yeah. Fairly simple. Siddharth just wanted to amend the working group policy just for a bit of a clarification in some of the language. Pulling it up just so I remember it correctly. I believe the change in verbiage was just to add a small clause of all members in a working group, student at large members included, shall have equal voting rights in all matters within the working group, which is what it was before anyways. It's just clarifying that, and then also indicating that students at large can also be vice chair if that's a position within the working group. But yeah, a small addition and clarification of that.
Okay, are there questions? Are there points of debate or amendments? If there are none, please head over to Turning Point to vote. Okay, this motion also passes unanimously. Next is amending council composition procedure. President Gardner is the mover, and is there a seconder? Councillor Kermack. President Gardner, you have the floor.
This one is, again, amending the council composition procedure. We all changed in that emergency meeting, but the change this time around is removing a seat that's always been listed in our composition procedure, which is a spot for the WELC, or Western English Language Center. This is a position that existed in this procedure as a means to communicate more with the WELC, but they've never been forthcoming with any candidate or person to fill that seat. Ever since its addition, it's always been vacant, and for us, it's just strange to have that addition because it also changes our quorum requirements. So removing it to have a more accurate reflection of our council composition.
Okay, are there any questions? Are there any points of debate or amendments? If there are none, please head over to Turning Point. This motion also passes unanimously. Up next is repealing standing resolutions of council. President Gardner is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cohen, or Councillor Jung, because President Gardner, you have the floor.
I thought you were going to say it, but all right. Yeah, this one's for me again, through Gardner, of course. So once again, we're looking at standing resolutions of council. If some of you may recall, last time the standing resolutions came up, I had noted how they were outdated and bit of a strange governance practice for us to follow. However, last time, instead of repealing it in its entirety, some councilors noted there were some issues before we remove every single clause within it, and this is me following up on that concern. So in the repealing of the rest of the standing resolutions, portions of it will be moving into the standing orders of council. So the portion denoting that the 5 VPs who are resource members would be
automatically invited to attend in-camera sessions of council. So that's been moved into standing orders, so that doesn't need to be an extra motion that we do every time we go into an in-camera session. And then also the creation and introduction of a new fees and financial statement policy, which indicates how we go about increasing student fees when we budget, as well as the different referendums and rules restricting us for the different student fees we have incorporated. So in the removal of that increase by inflation that's denoted in the standing resolutions, we have a whole new policy that denotes the exact rules and how.
Are there any questions? Are there any points of debate or amendments to be made? If not, please head over to Turning Point. This motion also passes unanimously. Next, we're on to our motion of prioritizing advocacy to include kosher and halal food options within residence and on-campus eateries. Councillor Kermack is the mover, and Councillor Cohen is the seconder. Councillor Kermack, you have the floor.
Thank you. So last year in the racial and religious student policy paper, the previous executive prioritized or noted the importance of advocacy surrounding kosher and halal food options within residence and on-campus eateries. But since then, there hasn't been much action on this front. So this motion would essentially just put words into action in terms of developing a plan to get kosher and halal food options available in all on-campus eateries. This would be something that the University Affairs portfolio would take on, and with the goal of having all on-campus eateries to have kosher and halal food options no later than the first move-in date for students in residence in August. I'll pass it off to Jordy.
Everyone. Yeah, okay. Not much to say, just I think it's really important. And we wanted to include kosher and halal together because kosher food actually satisfies like the halal requirements. So we'd kind of be killing two birds with one stone. And obviously the more students we include and advocate for, the better. There's a really big Jewish population on campus, but also a really big Muslim student population. So we'd just be accommodating a lot of students. And in terms of feasibility, I know this motion is attesting more to the advocating for it, but it is pretty feasible. They've brought it in last year for Passover so that there was food for Jewish students. They're doing that again this year. I had a meeting with EDI the other day and they brought kosher food outsourced from Toronto. So it's definitely plausible and it's doable. It's just a matter of speaking to people that know how to get it done and figuring it out and seeing what students need it so that obviously we're just satisfying everyone's needs. That's about it.
Are there any questions on this motion? Yes, go ahead. Councillor Durden.
Hi, yeah, I think this is a great motion. I was just wondering if you had explored if there's any other sort of groups of food that would need to or could be kind of grouped in sourcing both kosher and halal food, like for students that need it.
Pardon? Can you just like rephrase?
Yeah,
sorry?
like for example, like vegetarian options, like just other options for I guess selected groups on campus. I was just wondering if you had explored any further options.
Yeah, so I can speak to my experience in res and on campus. So I know like when I was moving into res in first year, like when I had been placed in Elgin, they had a whole questionnaire being like, what are your dietary restrictions? They had like halal listed, they had kosher listed, they had vegan, vegetarian listed. And then when I selected kosher, they're like, okay, go talk to the kitchen staff like when you move in. And I had said to them, hey, I'm kosher, I was told to come speak to you. I don't know like what the next steps are. And they're like, well, we have vegetarian, vegan, or halal options, so you can eat that. And then I had a friend who was like super observant and he literally ate like instant food that he brought in from Toronto the entire year because he couldn't eat in the kitchen at all. Like, I'm a little less observant, so I just made do. I know that there were vegan options, there were vegetarian options, there were halal options. So to my knowledge, those groups are satisfied, and I've seen those in-campus eateries. But unless you buy like a granola bar or something that has like a kosher symbol on it, there's actually no kosher food on campus unless we specify it for a specific date. So like I had a meeting with EDI the other day, and they outsourced it because it was requested by Hillel. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it kind of does. It was just more like, are there other, like, maybe lesser known dietary groups that could be also advocated for or added to this like advocacy campaign?
I feel like maybe celiac, but other than that, I think most are accommodated, but that didn't come up, unfortunately, when we were consulting, but that's a great point, so I'm not opposed to adding that.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi. So that's really nice to hear, actually, that we're getting more options on campus. So thank you for that. But you mentioned something about kosher and halal being the same.
Not the same.
You said killing two birds with one stone. If you could just clarify that.
Yeah, so kosher meat often also has a halal symbol on it because it satisfies like the halal requirements, but halal meat can't be eaten by people who keep strictly kosher. So by implementing kosher meat options, well, that was what I was speaking to specifically, but by introducing those options, you're also accommodating students who eat halal as well as Jewish students if you're sourcing kosher meat products, for example.
Okay, that's good. So I think one point of concern would be some Muslim students like myself. If I were to be given meat and it was kosher, but it was actually like, oh, it's kosher, but Muslims can eat it too, I wouldn't be happy. Like there's a certain demographic of Muslims, I believe, that would prefer to eat strictly halal than to mix in with kosher. But I know this might be getting a little nitpicky because there's only so much you can do.
So like the motion was to advocate for kosher and halal food. I was just kind of explaining that we could just appeal to a bigger demographic. I wasn't
100%.
saying that like you'd only get kosher, only halal. Again, this is just a motion to advocate for bringing it into campus. It's not actually bringing it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I understand that. Like I just want to make the point that if it's gonna be kosher, but under the assumption that kosher is okay for Muslims to eat, then I feel like that should be expressed when it comes about. So people who, you kind of see what I'm getting at? Or?
Yeah. That wasn't my intention. I should have picked my words more carefully, but that's not what I was implying. But I'm gonna hand it over to Peter.
Yeah. So what Jordy said is not actually listed in the motion itself. It's just more of a suggestion for how to deal.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Reminder that this is the question period. If we have points of debate, we'll say that to the debate period. Are there questions? Yeah, it can be a point of information if you want.
So just to clarify, sorry, I can't see your name. Is it Councillor Mohammed? Just to clarify kind of the point that he was making. So yeah, you're right. There's two types of halal meat usually. There's like zabiha, which is like slaughtered the halal way, and then there's just halal meat. Kosher food satisfies the first one, which is kind of the less strict standard. So if the meat is kosher, it satisfies the less strict halal standard. But there is like a stricter standard where it's like, slaughtered zabiha halal, which is like it's blessed when it's slaughtered. And kosher meat does not necessarily satisfy that requirement. So that's just a point of clarification for those two different types of things. And I think we should be advocating for both, which I think you are.
Okay, are there further questions at this time? If there are none, are there any points of debate? Okay, please head over to turning to point to vote. This motion also passes unanimously. Next, we have the Senate Chair report at USC meetings. Councilor Uslis is the mover. Do we have a seconder? President Gardner. Sophia, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just putting forward this motion because I think there's a disconnect between academic policy and what goes on with the Western Student Centers, especially as they do not have the same resources as USC. I'm going to yield the floor to Emily Kalajian, who is a 3-time.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to first say thank you for giving me the opportunity on this motion today, especially Councilor forward. As I'm about to enter my 3rd term on the Senate, I have been able to observe how the Student Senate is at its strongest when it's well connected to students. Because the Western Senate is heavily dominated by administration, it's very vital that the USC and the WSS, Western Senate, work together to bring student needs to life. There is more to Senate than SRAs. We believe that a stronger partnership will allow for greater change on the academics front. I always like to say that despite our differences, choosing Western to further pursue our education are where the lines are parallel. This is what perpetuates the importance of academic policy across campus. Something as simple as the WSS representative speaking at a USC meeting to give updates is a vital first step for us to both strengthen our relationship as well as properly address students' concerns more. Anyways, thank you.
Are there any questions at this time? If there are none, are there any points of debate or amendments to be made? Okay, please head over to Turning Point. This motion also passes unanimously. Okay, we have our added motion now. This is actually not the motion. Yeah, just check out the motion on the agenda if you'd like to see it. I'll try to get it up. Councilor Adamesco is the mover. Is there a seconder? Sorry, Councilor Bader. I can't read. Councilor Adamesco, you have the floor.
Can I yield my speaking rights to Lauren?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, awesome. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so really quickly, this was something that was included in my platform, and I think at the beginning of the semester, or sorry, at the beginning of sorry, I think that mic was cutting out. Yeah, so at the beginning of this year, we were still, coming out of the pandemic, and single-use materials were something that we really relied on. I think as we're hopefully still navigating some aspects of the pandemic, but for the most part, I think Western's moving back to that in-person experience more permanently. I'm looking towards Western to commit to being a blue community, so looking for approval on this proposal so I can send it off to the right members of administration. And I'm also planning on working with Kimia and the communications portfolio to kind of promote it on social media to get some student backing towards it. But essentially aiming for over the next couple years for Western to eliminate single-use plastic water bottles on campus. It's a really big contributor to our waste. And I think it's a really great first step towards some of those more tangible sustainability goals that Western has.
Okay, are there any questions? Are there any points of, yes, Councilor Dart.
I was just wondering if you had like specific single-use plastics in mind, or was it just more generally all single-use plastics?
Okay, so for this specific proposal, it's just single-use plastic water bottles. But in the USC's sustainability policy paper, which is still holding through at least the end of my term, there's a greater desire that to include beyond plastic water bottles. Blue Community specifically, though, is for plastic water bottles.
Further questions? Okay, if there are none, are there any points of debate or amendments to be made? Okay, so if you are in favor of this motion, please raise your placard. Lower? Opposed? And abstentions. Okay, this motion also passes unanimously. Okay, I don't believe there's any new business at this time. And there are no board discussion items. And we're now moving into our questions from the Western community. Are there any at this time? Councillor Kidamisi? You have to say it.
Motion to terminate.
President Garner is our seconder. Are there any objections to terminating at this time? There are none. See you all. Oh, objection. Okay, so this is one. The meeting's technically over, but you're gonna sit down for a few more seconds. This is the full meeting for March, but please block out your Wednesday next week anyways, because we're planning a fun event that will be here at the same time. You're gonna probably get details about it tomorrow. It's gonna be super fun. You're all required to show up, and you're all required to have fun. I will see you then.